Good morning. Welcome to Convince Me, presented by BetMGM. It's 11 a.m. The most exciting window in sports is open now. That's because lineups are being locked, bets are being made, spreads are moving. There is a ton of news to discuss, some massive line moves happening this morning. We're going to dig into all of it with Sean Koerner, Chris Raybon, Simon Hunter, Darren Rovell and Samantha Previte on the Action Network News Desk. Darren, as he does every week, has a poll. Which of the biggest underdogs are going to cover? Is it Chicago? Is it the New York Giants? Is it the Las Vegas Raiders? They're not. Yes, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Detroit Lions, who are now playing with less than 50 players, apparently. Everything we're talking about, all the news, all the data, all the analysis, all the picks, it's available for free in the award-winning Action Network app. As always, we will start with the props. Sean Koerner, convince me of your prop.
Well, Chad, I'm going to convince you to take the over for the rushing prop for the best backup running back in the league, and that's Kareem Hunt. I'm taking him over 32.5 rushing yards today against the Ravens. I mentioned he's a backup running back, but he's guaranteed close to double-digit touches each and every week, even when Nick Chuba is healthy. The last time he played week 12 was the only time this season he hasn't cleared this number. He only ran the ball 7 times for 20 yards. But that happened to be the season low in rush attempts for the Browns at 17. Kareem Hunt was returning from his calf injury that knocked him out for 5 games. So after their week 13 bye, he's going to be much closer to 100% here. And like I said, he's cleared this number in all 6 games before the injury this season. And dating back to last year, he's cleared this number in 15 of 19 games when Nick Chuba is active. That's a 79% hit rate. I'm projecting this over 10 yards over this number. I'm projecting him closer to 44.5. So I love this number. This is my favorite prop today. Kareem Hunt over 32.5 rushing yards.
Your enthusiasm is almost overwhelming. And if anyone believes they know exactly how many rushing yards Kareem Hunt is going to have, reply to @Action Network HQ. You can win $100. This is how we do our weekly contest. I will say, I see that number to 32.5, and it feels 10 yards too low to me. Good. Like Kareem Hunt back healthy in a game like this, where the expectation is the Browns will run the ball and try to control the clock and do what they do best in a really important matchup in the AFC North. It's going to be hard to convince me off of this one. Simon Hunter, what do you got?
It's a rare Sunday for me. I actually like my prop more than I like my side and totals. I love this prop bet so much this week. Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions against this Tampa Bay team. Bunch of things stand out. The biggest one is go through Cole Beasley's history. Anytime he's held to 1 catch the week before, he averages 8.5 catches the following week. So this season, he was held to 1 catch. The next game, he had 9 catches, then 8 catches, and 7 catches. Last year, he got held to 1 catch. The following week, he had 8 catches. The year before that, he got held to 1 catch. He had 10 catches the following week. So we've seen a pattern here with Cole. He might have a game where he has a letdown. The following week, they really get him active. But we just got a treat here. We got a Tampa Bay team that runs the highest percentage of zone defense, one of the best run defenses in football. So what are they going to do? If they need 3 or 4 yards instead of running the ball, they're just going to do quick little plays with Cole Beasley. So last time I gave an over reception prop, it hit in the first half. I have the same feeling with this one. This is way too low. I'm shocked the bookmakers didn't make this 6. I think you're getting a real treat here at 4.5.
I know. I feel like I heard Raybon talking about this one on his podcast this week. So I think he had him projected much higher than 4.5 receptions. Listen, I can make some Cole Beasley jokes about catching things, but I'm not going to because this is not a political show. But I do think what you're nailing there is Cole Beasley is sort of the out for Josh Allen against a defense that really can only stop the run and has had so many issues in the defensive backfield, and in a game in which I think a lot of us, I'm foreshadowing here, expect the Bills to perform to outsized expectations, especially in the passing game. Wow, that's really interesting. I was so all in on Sean Koerner, and now I'm kind of leaning to Cole Beasley. But Raybon, what do you got?
Got to go Amon-Ra St. Brown under 51.5 receiving yards. He just had the game of his life, catching the game winner on a ridiculous zone coverage play by the Vikings. Well, this week he's facing the Denver Broncos, who play the most man coverage in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 80 yards all season against man coverage. He's averaging just 7.3 yards per catch. So he could get 5-6 catches and probably still go under this number. And if you look at what's going on with the Lions, they got no TJ Hawkinson. They got no Deandre Swift. So what does that allow the Broncos to do? Zone in on Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be treated as a number one receiver, which was not the case for the entire year. So this is just a spot where you're going to see him do what he did for the rest of the season, which was go under this number in 8 out of 12 games. He has more names than catches. Like just take the under 51.5. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He has more names than he does catches. He has more letters in his name than he does catches. That was a ridiculously bad call by the Vikings last week defensively against the Lions. They basically just gave that game away, as they are wont to do late in the game. I got to say, this is really, really hard. This is really, really hard. Raybon, I know you love Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions too. Tell me true. Did you get to the script before Simon? And did you put Amon-Ra St. Brown before Cole Beasley? Or did Simon get to the script before you?
I think he got there before me. I would still go with Amon-Ra St. Brown, but if you're asking me which of the other two I would pick, I would go with Cole Beasley. I don't trust the Browns in this running game. I mean, they have no tight ends and they have no Jack Conklin. And they ran for 36 yards combined last time. So yeah, I'll go Beasley.
I agree. I'm sorry, Koerner. I was all in on Kareem Hunt. 32.5. That seems way too low. But Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions against the defense that is struggling so much in the secondary. That's it for me. Well done, Simon. Koerner, you can thank one of your other podcast co-hosts, Chris Raybon, for screwing you over there. But don't forget, if you think you know exactly how many rushing yards Kareem Hunt is going to have today against the Ravens, reply at Action Network HQ. You could win $100. All right, Rovell, what do you got, buddy? Other than a authentic jersey, what do you got?
Yeah, Rod Tidwell jersey, 25th anniversary of Jerry Maguire tomorrow. Love that movie. Listen, we have 5,500 votes in the poll. The Lions at plus 11, though now they're plus 11.5 against the Broncos. 37% think that is the team that will most likely cover today. Raiders are not too far behind at 33%, reminding everyone that the Lions are 8-4 against the spread. The Chiefs playing the Raiders are 5-7 against the spread. And then in dead last in the polls, of course, your Chicago Bears, 13% against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers straight up is 21-5 against the Bears in his career. And the Packers are the best in the NFL against the spread this year, 10-2. And over the last 30 games, 21-9, 70%. The most bet games at BetMGM today are those games with the largest spreads, and they are going with the favorites. Square City here. Lions, Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders. Then the Cowboys, Washington, which, as we'll talk about, will be an interesting one to bet, as people have already betted it, but now it's at plus 6.5 for Washington, as there's mystery surrounding that game and how many people are out. Most bet on teams: Broncos minus 11.5, Chiefs minus 9.5, and Seahawks minus 9 against Houston.
You're right, Darren. This Washington football team, Dallas Cowboys game is such a head scratcher. I know we're going to get to it in our next segment, in our best bets on the sides segment. But first, Koerner, you're up. It's hard for me to tell by your headgear today what you're leaning towards, but please tell us.
Well, I mean, since you're already rooting for Cole Beasley to go over 4.5 receptions, join me on the Bills plus 3.5 today against the Buccaneers. Now, I'm well aware they're facing the greatest quarterback of all time and reigning Super Bowl champs. I don't need to hear it. But I like buying low on this Bills team, especially after a 14-10 loss against the Patriots last week. Clearly, they were impacted by the wins, and they lost to a team that only threw the ball 3 times. They just didn't plan well for that game. It wasn't their style. And Simon hit the nail on the head. You know, they can attack the Buccaneers defense through the air. I think this is going to be a Josh Allen game. He has 4 really good receivers, pass catching tight end. I just think they air it out, and I think they're pretty even, on both sides of the ball compared to the Buccaneers. So I think this, a pretty close game. And the Bills are 0-4 in 1-score games this year. My expected wins model has them playing more like a 9-3 team. So I think the market's overlooking them here. This is going to be the first matchup where they're definitely going to miss Tre'Davious White. They didn't need him last week because, like I said, the Patriots only threw the ball 3 times. But they're ranked number 1 in DVOA on defense. They're still going to be an elite defense. They have arguably the best safety duo in the NFL, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So I think they will be able to survive White's loss. They've been able to generate the most pressure in the NFL despite only blitzing at 23.5% of the time, which is below league average. So I think this is still going to be a solid defense. I'm not overreacting too much to White's injury. So I think, the Buccaneers should be -2.5 here. So I love getting +3.5 because the most likely outcome of this game is the Bucs to win by a field goal, but we'll still win in that outcome. So I love getting the Bills +3.5 here.
Yeah, look, this has been a game that we've been talking about all week. There are some places actually, because so much money is coming in on the Bucs right now, you can actually get the Bills at +4. So the question becomes, and I'll ask Simon Hunter to address 2 games here. Number 1, do we think we're seeing professional money come in on the Bucs as favorites at 3.5? And is that only to buy back at the 4? And then I know you want to talk about Washington football team in Dallas.
Yeah, I think we saw a classic Billy Walters move. We saw the pros come in on the Bills at 3.5. The books, once they touched 3, they came in 3 times heavier on that Bucs number. So I think they're right there with what Sean's saying. They see this game being a field goal matchup. The fact that the books have moved it up to 4 now, that's really interesting. They're actually begging you now to come in on the Bills because they need that money. So to me, I'm there with Sean. I would take that 4. I think that's a good number at 3. Get into this Washington football matchup, Chad. Woo! This is scary. A little behind the curtains. We give these lines out, so I will send my pick in, Saturday afternoon. So at the time, I think Washington might have been 4.5. They've moved 2 points in just 12 hours. We could talk about it. I've heard that it's up to about $3-4 million now of professional groups coming in really heavy on this Cowboys team. So what Darren alluded to is we don't know. There might be COVID news on this Washington football team. There's rumors going around there. They might be down a couple of D linemen. How can I not take 6.5? This is such a smart number. I think the pros have got the value at 4.5. Now we're getting the value at 6.5. That's a key number. We see games land on 6 a lot now with teams going for 2, teams missing extra points. Divisional matchup outdoors with this Cowboys team. Again, I can't not take this number. This just feels like such a professional number to bet. So 6.5, 7, if you can get at your book, you have to take this Washington football team with that number.
Let's say you're a guy in Central Connecticut who happens to be hosting one of the most widely watched pregame betting shows in the world right now, and you've already bet the Washington football team at +4.5. Do you double down and take the Washington football team at +6.5 now, or do you just live with your 4.5?
That's a personal choice, but yeah, it's a professional. I bet at 4.5, bet it at 5.5, I bet it at 6, and I bet at 6.5. It's definitely scary when you're going against the professionals, but I just think they've moved the number too much now. The value is coming back on Washington. So professionally, yeah, I would grab that 6.5 while you can, because I think it's going to disappear.
Simon, you're a professional. I'm going with you, man. That's what I'm doing. Raybon, you ask me to do disgusting things on the show, and sometimes I go for it and sometimes I don't. I didn't go for it in the first round. Will I go for it in the second round?
I think you should, Chad, because I think you have to fade the disgusting Browns and take Baltimore +3 here. First of all, look at the matchup last time. Baltimore barely gets 300 yards of offense. They turned it over 4 times on 4 Lamar Jackson interceptions. He has the worst passing game of the year, just 165 yards, and Baltimore still wins the game by 6 points. Now, yes, Cleveland's coming off the bye, but they don't have 2 of their top 3 tight ends. This is for a team that runs the most 3 tight end sets in the league. Why have they been so good at running the ball? Because they usually have 2 to 3 tight ends on the field. It's not just Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's that heavy personnel that's going to be compromised today. Not only that, Jack Conklin, their right tackle, he's out. He was a top 6 run blocking tackle, according to PFF. That also hurts their run game. And Baltimore is a top 5 defense in DVOA against the run. So everyone wants to say Marlon Humphrey's out. That's going to hurt. What against who? Like who does he have to cover on the Cleveland Browns where they would even need him? Like Jarvis Landry had a big game in the first matchup. They scored 10 points. The Browns have not scored more than 17 points twice in the last 7 games. They've done it only once. One time over the last 7 games have the Browns scored more than 17. I think you're going to need more than that to beat the Ravens this go around. I was on Pittsburgh last week and they came through against the Ravens, but that was just the first time, excluding week 17, that John Harbaugh and the Ravens have failed to cover a divisional road game in his entire career. They're now 11-1 with 2 pushes, 92% against the spread in divisional road games from week 10 on, excluding week 17. You got to go Baltimore here.
You know, it's so interesting. Like the Washington football team, we've hit on probably the 3 most interesting games of the day in the Bills against the Bucks, in the Washington football team against the Cowboys, and in the Ravens and the Browns, all for different reasons, right? Is it a get back spot for the Bills? Is something going on with the Washington football team and their roster that is moving this number so aggressively in 12 hours? And in this game, a intense intra-divisional matchup in which a lot of the wise guys loved the Browns at 2.5. You're on an island with the Ravens. Simon was trying to convince me earlier in the week that it was the Ravens, that the Ravens were the right side. This is really tough. This is really, really tough. I think I have to go with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills plus 3.5. They make me the most comfortable. Like the Browns, to me, I got the Browns at 2.5. It feels like in a game like this, you basically want to take the home team if you can get them less than a field goal. You want to ignore it if it's a 3, and you want to take the road team if you can get the plus 3.5, which, by the way, Raybon, that's what a lot of us did with the Steelers last week against the Ravens. And this Washington football team, there's something going on, and it's making me antsy, even though I'm probably going to bet them again at plus 6.5. For this show, the safest bet, the one that seems to work for me, is the Buffalo Bills, plus 3.5. Anyone have any comments on that?
I agree completely with your decision, Chad.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right, Samantha, you're up. Fantasy news we can use. What do you got?
Thanks, Chad. Injuries this week are an absolute trash fire. So I'm going to hit you with some of the most important actives and inactives you need to know about when setting those week 14 lineups. Let's kick it off with a decimated Detroit team. Running back Deandre Swift has been ruled out with a shoulder injury. This will be his 2nd game in a row that he will miss against Denver. Jamal Williams will also not play. The Lions are going to be super shorthanded. Williams is on the COVID-19 reserve list. Godwin Iguanabin, sorry, I can't pronounce that name. But and
Northwestern guy, Godwin Igwebuike.
I'm sorry. I practiced that beforehand. And Jamar Jefferson are next up on the depth chart. Also, TJ Hawkinson is listed as doubtful with a hand injury. Undrafted free agent Brock Wright will likely get the start at tight end today. On the other side of the ball, Melvin Gordon is listed as questionable versus the Lions. He missed week 13 with a hip injury. He was limited in practice all week and is trending towards playing, but could be a game time decision, which could be dicey because this game starts at 4:05 Eastern time. Javonte Williams would immediately be a high-end RB1 if Gordon were to miss the game, but both are strong RB2s if Gordon is good to go. More COVID-19 news. Keenan Allen has been ruled out against the Giants. He was placed on the COVID-19 reserve list on Monday. This elevates the statuses of Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, and Jalen Guyton. Onto the 49ers, Deebo Samuel is listed as questionable and will play today against the Bengals. He missed last week dealing with a groin injury. Meanwhile, Elijah Mitchell, who is dealing with a concussion and a knee injury, has been ruled out. This elevates the status of Jeff Wilson Jr. and JaMychal Hasty. On the other side of the ball, Joe Mixon is listed as questionable, dealing with an illness against the 49ers. He missed practice all week due to this illness, and Zach Taylor did tell the media that he expects Mixon to play, but this could end up being a game time decision. Managers should keep that in mind, given that the game starts at 4:25 Eastern. Samaje Perine and Chris Evans are next up on the depth chart in case Mixon misses the game. And finally, to end on a positive note, Alvin Kamara will play today against the Jets. He's been dealing with hamstring and knee injuries, so this is the first time we will see him since week 9. This is a major bump for the Saints offense, especially with both Mark Ingram and Ty Montgomery on the COVID-19 list. And that is all I have for you for actives and inactives. Back to you, Chad.
And by the way, it pains me to acknowledge this, but last week, according to Fantasy Pros, which is it's a really great site and company that ranks how professional fantasy analysts like the folks on our show here today do every single week. Last week, Chris Raybon, Sean Koerner, 1 and 2 in the Week 13 Fantasy Pros accuracy rankings out of 183 experts. Well done, Raybon and Koerner. Well,
Thank you.
done.
Thank you.
Raybon will probably use this as an excuse to say that I am mushing him right now, and he will be number 183 out of 183. But I am only thinking I'm sending positive vibes. Koerner, I wish you were number 1, but number 2 is good enough. What's your total?
So I like the under on the Saints Jets matchup. It's under 42.5 right now. I locked this in at 43.5 earlier in the week. I still love it at 42. So Taysom Hill is going to be playing through an injured middle finger on his passing hand. So I expect them to be really run heavy here. Like Samantha mentioned, they get Alvin Kamara back. I'm expecting a really conservative run heavy offense and lean on their defense to put away the Jets, which should work here because Zach Wilson is going up against the number 5 ranked defense in DVOA in the Saints without his top 2 receivers. Both Corey Davis and Elijah Moore have been placed on IR. So I don't know where the Jets are scoring 20 points here, but they'll probably need it for this game to go over. So I'm projecting this closer to 40.5. And when it comes to totals, key numbers are 40, 41. So love getting the under 42.5. I think the only way this goes over is if we see, I don't want to jinx myself, but special teams touchdowns, pick sixes. You can't really bank on that. So this is my favorite total of the week.
But what's frustrating is it seems like that's happening more and more. It feels like more and more at the end of a first half, you're getting random screwy plays and you're getting those 10, 13, 16 point last 2 minutes because of bad field position, bad turnovers, bad quarterbacks making bad decisions. It's incredibly frustrating. And you do have 2 really bad quarterbacks who make bad decisions and are inaccurate in this game. That is a very, very scary total to play.
Yes,
Simon,
I would agree with that.
Simon, what do you got?
Chad, how about a really, really ugly over? Does that interest you? I think it
It's
should.
good.
So Chief in Las Vegas here, the total sitting at 47.5 at certain books. Originally it was 52.5, 53, and it dropped way down because people thought it was going to be bad weather. I saw multiple reports. They thought it was going to be a big storm today, bad winds. We looked the other day. It's sunny there. It's nice. The bookmakers still need the over. The money's still coming on the under because I think people are looking at this matchup saying, you know what, divisional game December. I'm right there with them. Usually I lean towards the under. Go through the history of these 2 teams' matchups. They played earlier in the season. Chiefs scored 41. The Vegas team scored 14. Go back to last year. Chiefs at home, they scored 35. Vegas scored 30. The week before, the 2 weeks before that, when they played in Vegas, I think the total was Chiefs 31, Vegas 40. It's just, again, these teams just play fast. They play up to, the over. And the biggest reason is Vegas doesn't adjust. All these other teams played the 2 high safeties. Vegas is the last team left in NFL that does not do that against the Chiefs. So just off that, this is a good get right spot for this Chiefs team. And I have to look for regression in this Chiefs defense. They've been playing out of their minds now for about 4 or 5 straight weeks. They're due for a stinker. Their defense can't keep it up. They have a couple injuries in their secondary as well. This is a nice spot for this Raiders team to kind of get their offensive going. I know Waller's out, but again, they still have the guys on the outside. They still have Deshaun Jackson there. So to me, when I'm looking at this offensive lineup with Las Vegas and this offensive team for this Chiefs team, I just feel like the bookmakers have moved it too many points. If this was 50, maybe I'd start thinking towards the under, but the fact that you're getting 47.5, which is a key number of 48, that just makes you really like the over in this position.
Such an interesting game too. It's the only side that we didn't talk about, but this is one of those public side plays where they are all on the Raiders. This line was at about 10, then it dropped to 9.5, 9. I think there are some spots where it's as low as 8 right now. A real public sentiment against the Chiefs. I think a lot of people were probably on the Broncos last week and felt like the Broncos ended up being the team that had the right side, that was the right side in that game. And also I think that's a really interesting play because the Chiefs have not been scoring a lot. And so this is somewhat counter. I think the fact that they haven't been scoring as much and Waller is out and there was expected weather is also depressing the total a little bit. Raybon, I also know that you're not a huge fan of Gus Bradley's inability to make adjustments. What do you got for a total?
Chad, I think we got to get ugly here. We got to go with Carolina and Atlanta under 41.5. Both of these teams are 7-5 toward the under this year. They've been profitable on the under, but more importantly, what happened to Carolina during the bye? Head coach Matt Rule fires his offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, for philosophical differences. They want to run the ball more. They're essentially telling us that they want to be an under team. They want to run it 33 to 39 times per game. And against Atlanta, they're going to be able to do that because Atlanta's not going to do much on the other side of the ball on offense. So you have two teams, bottom 3 in DVOA and offense. These teams played earlier in the year. It was a 19-13 game. Yes, I know it was Sam Bradford. Cam Newton's just coming off a 5 for 21 game. Is it really any different other than Cam Newton's going to help them run the ball and bleed the clock? No, both of these teams failed to crack 140 net passing yards in that last game. And you're going to get more of the same because Carolina's at home now. It's a late season divisional unders that are usually lower scoring than the first matchup. So the first matchup went 19-13. You can imagine how this one's going to go. Historically, according to our Action Labs data, late in the year, week 10 on, divisional unders in the 1 p.m. window, 62% hit rate, 227, 142, and 8. So you got to take the under here. I don't see neither of these teams scoring. Kyle Pitts was held to 2 catches. Russell Gage posted a goose egg as the starting number 1 receiver for the Falcons the last time these two teams played.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't need much convincing on this one because I am so excited to bet a UGLY. There is no alibi for this Carolina Atlanta game. Like, these are dreadful teams. And what's most interesting to me, you mentioned Joe Brady. By the way, not to get too inside baseball on the media component of this, there's a story in the headline stack on ESPN.com right now. Like, Joe Brady is still planning to coach in the NFL next year. Why does anyone care about a guy who got fired midseason, who doesn't have any college coaching jobs that he can get, that he's going to be interested in coaching the NFL next year? How is that a news story? Darren Rovell, how is that a news story? Anyways, I'm going with Carolina, Atlanta, under 41.5, because these teams are dreadful. Darren, you can comment when it's your turn. Samantha, please give us the latest fantasy news.
Thanks, Chad. As always, I'm going to hit you guys with 3 starts and 3 sits you need to know about when tinkering with those week 14 lineups. First, I want you to start Taysom Hill on the road against the Jets. If you had the intestinal fortitude to fire up Hill in his first start last week against Dallas, I salute you. He had 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but finished with 25 fantasy points due to his rushing, which you don't need your finger for. So this is a positive matchup against the Jets, who have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So he is a low-end QB1 this week. Next, I am starting Chuba Hubbard at home versus the Falcons. Christian McCaffrey was placed on IR before the Panthers bye and will miss the rest of the season. Weeks 4 through 8, when CMC was out, Hubbard was averaging 19 attempts per game and just shy of 12 fantasy points per game in half PPR. I think he has a little bit higher upside with Cam Newton. This matchup is great versus the Falcons, who rank 7th worst in the in the NFL versus fantasy running backs. Last time these two teams met, he saw 24 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. So he is a low end RB2 this week based on workload and matchup. Last, I am all in on Dawson Knox on the road versus the Bucks. He definitely had a quiet week 13 versus the Patriots. Weather and matchup really factored into that, but he is still tight end 5 on a per game basis in half PPR. The Buccaneers rank 10th worst against tight ends for fantasy, so he is a mid-range tight end 1. On to sits first. I do not feel good about starting Russell Wilson on the road in Houston. He has looked better each week since returning from his finger injury, finished as QB 15 last week. But the Texans have been sneaky good recently against quarterbacks. They have allowed an average of 11.5 fantasy points to the position over the last 4 games. He may be on the upswing, but this just isn't a strong week 14 start. Second, I am completely out on Brandon Ayuk on the road in Cincy. He has fallen outside of my circle of trust. Once again, was a disappointment with Deebo Samuel out last week with the groin injury. Samuel is likely to play this week, and a couple of costly drops could definitely impact Kyle Shanahan's trust in him. And last, as much as it pains me to say this, I am sitting Kyle Pitts on the road versus the Panthers. I just cannot, in good conscience, recommend starting Pitts. He has been so disappointing this season, and even more so in the second half, was held to 2 catches for 13 yards last time these two division rivals met. Since week 8, Pitts is tight end 29, averaging just 5.5 fantasy points per game in half PPR. You just cannot trust him against the Panthers, who've only allowed 1 double-digit fantasy performance to a tight end all year. And that is all I have for you for start sit. Make sure to take out any Colts, Dolphins, Patriots, and Eagles, and good luck in week 14.
Well, I am going to be with you on Kyle Pitts. I hope he has a pitiful game. Get it? Pitiful game. Thank
I
you,
love it.
Samantha.
I love
Thank
the
you,
dad joke.
Samantha. And screw the rest of you for not even acknowledging what fun wordplay that is. Ravel.
Is
How's
she,
the
the,
poll?
is she the newest paycheck at the Action Network? Because I felt like that was like a paycheck clap.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. You're lucky you're even on this show.
I know. It seemed like based on our Twitter that I wasn't going to be on the show. But I love the Meet the Fockers reference. So I'm going to say that favorites this year have been as successful as Operation Koh Samui, for those who get it. Okay, so the unders this year are 109, 84, and 2. That is the best percentage since the 1986 season, Chad. So we're going to talk about the unders. Panthers, Falcons, the most popular under right now, 41.5, 89% of the money. Saints, Jets, 42.5, 79% of the money. Cowboys, WFT, whatever, who's ever playing, people like that. They like that under. 48, 77% of the money. And Packers, Bears at 43, 74% of the money for the game that will end 37-3, Chad. And then finally our poll, the Lions are still the most popular pick to win or at least cover the spread. 37% right now say that the Lions will cover the spread against the Broncos, and no weather this week. So we don't really have much to talk about on that front.
Darren, since you made a Meet the Fockers reference, I will tell you and everybody else that I exercised editorial judgment. And when Samantha referenced Deebo Samuel was coming off a groin injury, I did not lapse into my Sam Malone from Cheers groin injury rap.
Is your middle name like what's you have an awkward middle name like Greg Fokker or no?
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, I thought your middle name was like Norman. No,
Darren.
Okay. What is your middle name?
It doesn't matter. This isn't the part of the show where we talk about each other's names. This is the part of the show where I recap what I chose for Convince Me, because I forgot to do it when I ended with the totals. I am going with Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions. I'm going with the Bills plus 3.5 against the Bucks. I'm going with the public, apparently, and Chris Raybon, Carolina and Atlanta under 41.5. this is the recap for everybody, for all of our experts. Sean Koerner went with Kareem Hunt over 32.5 rushing yards. He went with the Bills plus 3.5. He went with the Saints and the Jets. They're about 42 right now, and I think he still likes them under there. Simon went with Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions. The Washington football team, which is just steaming up to 6.5. He went with the Raiders and Chiefs over 47.5, over 48. And Chris Raybon went with Amon-Ra St. Brown under 51 receiving yards. That was right, Raybon, under 51 receiving yards. And he went with the Baltimore Ravens going against the Sharps plus 3. And he's with the public, Carolina, Atlanta under 41.5. That wraps it up for Sean Koerner, Chris Raybon, Simon Hunter, Darren Rovell, Samantha Previte. I am Chad Millman. You can catch us next time at Action Network HQ, 11 a.m. Convince Me Sunday mornings. Good luck today, everybody.